Hey, what's up guys? Benny here and welcome to another Call of Duty Warzone video, which is 8 huge tips to help make you better for Call of Duty Warzone Season 5. Now, some of these tips you may want to implement in the future and some you'll be able to do straight away, but they're all designed to help give you all those small advantages that in the long run is going to help you win more games and become better at Warzone. But first, before we get into the first tip, 72.9% of you watching this are not subscribed to the channel, so subscribe and you'll become a better Warzone player. I promise. Now, first of all, I'd like to say a big thank you to Palette and Nvidia for sponsoring this video. But something that's very important and will help you become a better Call of Duty Warzone player is making sure that you have a high FPS, which is the frames per second being outputted on your monitor. This is one of the major reasons that a lot of top players will play on PC over console, as current generation consoles still only provide 60 frames per second on Warzone, whilst on PC, you can go all the way to 240 frames per second, which, as you're about to see, can give you a pretty big advantage and is one of the reasons I've been playing on PC since Warzone's release. Now, you also need to remember is your monitor also needs to have a high refresh rate, so if you're playing a game at 144 frames per second, you'll need a 144 Hz monitor in order to be able to see all those frames. But you'll probably be thinking, does it actually make a difference to my gameplay? Well, if we check out this super slow motion Warzone video that's been made by Nvidia, you can clearly see that the gameplay animations are smoother, which is going to allow you to be able to spot enemies quicker and track them easier, whilst also getting less screen tearing and ghosting. And that smooth motion really does help you when you're trying to be more precise, snapping onto your enemies and making those small adjustments to land those headshots. And then when you go ahead and combine that with a high refresh rate monitor, along with a GPU that'll allow you to play Warzone at hundreds of frames per second, you'll have less input lag and latency, which is going to make the game feel a lot more responsive, letting you be able to react better. Like, a thing that a lot of people don't know is that if you're playing at 240 frames per second, your system latency drops by almost 4 times compared to 60 FPS, which is what the majority of players are currently playing on. And that gives you a big advantage, as you can see players coming around a corner earlier, which is going to give you the chance to get that first shot off to help you win the game. Now, what I've been using in my PC is the Palette GeForce RTX 2080 Game Rock Edition, which is one of the latest GPUs from Palette that can hit 120 FPS and above at 1440p in Warzone. It's got this 2-fan design and support for Palette's Thundermaster software, which lets you easily monitor and overclock your GPU to get the best performance. There's a link down in the description for you if you want to go ahead and check out Palette's range of GeForce RTX GPUs to upgrade your setup ahead of Season 5. Now, the next major tip I have for you to get better at Warzone ahead of Season 5 is to do with the game's sound, because for some horrible reason, the sound design in Warzone makes enemy footsteps one of the most difficult things to hear in the entire game, which is crazy if you go back and compare it to previous Call of Duties. It's just so difficult to hear. The strangest thing though is that when you're spectating one of your teammates, it becomes a lot easier to hear the direction of enemy footsteps, which I find really weird and sadly something you can't get when you're alive in the game. But until recently, I've always used Boost High as my sound mix, as I believe that increased the overall enemy footstep sounds the highest, which it does, but what I didn't take into account is that it also increases the other ambient noises in the game, making it harder to separate footsteps and the actual direction they're coming from the sound mix. So you have 2 other viable sound settings that's going to make enemy footstep sounds the loudest in your sound mix and making them as clear as possible. The first one is, weirdly enough, home theater, which I'd never considered using. You'll have to make sure your own sound settings are cranked up above what you'd usually have, but it honestly does make a big difference. Then you've got Boost Low, which, if I'm honest, isn't my fondest sound mix because at times it does make it sound like you're underwater, even though you can hear those footsteps quite clearly. So go ahead and choose either home theater or low boost as your audio mix. You can listen to the audio test if you want to, if you're having trouble deciding. Then set your master volume to 100, turn music volume off, dialogue volume down to 25, and then effects volume should also be 100. I then have Juggernaut music off, hit marker sound effects as MW, which is what I personally prefer, and those are the best sound settings that you can have right now ahead of Season 5. I'd also recommend to use a headset. It'll allow you to be able to perform so much better than just listening through speakers, which could potentially mean you miss some important sound information and you get shot in the back. Now, I personally use Turtle Beach Elite Pro 2s, which I've used for years, and I definitely recommend them if you're looking for a brand new headset and want to use the same as me. Now, my next tip, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I do entire dedicated videos for them, but please spend 5 to 10 minutes sorting out your loadouts. There are far too many players that I run into that could be doing so much better than they are if they used the best weapon builds possible. Like, this Kilo class is probably one of the best you can have in the entire game right now going into Season 5. Using the Monolithic Suppressor, the Singard Arms 19.8 Prowler Barrel, the VOK 3x Optic, the Commando foregrip, and 60 round mag. It's, in my opinion, replace the Grau as the go-to assault rifle in Warzone, especially within kill races and tournaments, high mobility, high damage, and it's accurate. Everything you want in an assault rifle. Then I still use the MP5, which even after its nerf is still an incredible weapon to use. The build I use is the Monolithic Integral Suppressor, F-Tac Collapsible Stock, Merc Foregrip, 45 round mag, and then stippled grip tape. Something you should also do inside of buildings is remember to hip fire with this thing. You can then strafe fire, which is really hard to track if someone is using an assault rifle and aiming down sights. It'll help you get some extra kills without that movement penalty you get when you aim down sights with a weapon. So remember to hip fire. Then perks I use are double time, overkill, and amped. You can use EOD instead of double time if you like. Then I use C4, and recently I've been using stun grenades to help me improve my overall game sense, as I'm not relying on a heartbeat sensor, which is just going to help increase the speed that I move through the map, which is key to winning kill race tournaments. Next, I really want to talk about your controller because there are certain things that you can do that will make you a better player. The first thing is your controller grip. Now, I personally use the claw grip, which means I never take my thumbs off the thumbsticks to do any action. I'll press my X, Y, B, and A buttons with my index finger like a crab claw. Now, this is a hard habit to get into, and let me know in the comments if you do it, but you never want to take your thumbs off your thumbsticks, as you could potentially get caught out and take longer to react. There are controllers and button layouts designed to help with this, like an Xbox Elite controller or a SCUF. Mouse and keyboard players are quite lucky that this isn't something they ever really need to worry about, but try and do whatever you can to never take your thumbs off the thumbsticks. I'll do a video on how to play claw very soon, as I think that could potentially help you out. Next, one of the most powerful things that you can do in Warzone for not just yourself but your team as well is to be able to quickly ping enemies. Once again, players on mouse and keyboard can do this easily because of the amount of buttons and keybinds that they have available to them. Controller players, not so much. But something that went under the radar is that Warzone recently implemented the bumper ping tactical button layout. If you don't have a SCUF or an Elite controller, this is the setting that you should 100% be using, as it allows you to never take your thumbs off the thumbsticks, but still be able to ping opponents quickly, drop shot, and so much more. Honestly, it's ridiculously helpful. What it'll do is make your left bumper ping, so you can quickly mark an opponent while shooting at them, which will give you a live location of an enemy player, not just for yourself, but your teammates as well. Make sure you get used to doing this ahead of Season 5, and it'll pay off. Then my next piece of advice to help you get better at Warzone is to play on a smaller screen. Now, if you have the opportunity to do so, try and not play competitive shooters like Warzone on a large 65-inch telly, because it's just going to be so much harder for you to be able to take in all the information that's going on screen. It's more difficult for you to quickly scan and notice subtle movements, and you'll also notice in order to check everywhere, you'll have to move your entire head to check the corners of your screen rather than just a quick glance of your eyes. There's a reason every pro player, every streamer, every content creator uses a monitor. That 24 to 27 inch size is perfect for you to sit at a desk and take in all the information and react to it that you just can't get on a big TV. Another important reason to use a monitor over a TV is what we talked about earlier. Monitors traditionally are cheaper and have higher refresh rates, which is going to give you the ability to perform at your maximum, especially if you're using something like a Palette GeForce RTX 2080 Super like me. You'll be able to take full advantage and will notice an instant difference to your gameplay. You can also, on most monitors, change a whole load of settings, such as reducing the amount of blue light the screen's kicking out, which is going to tire your eyes less. This means that when you're playing for long gaming sessions, whether it's with your friends or in a tournament, your eyes aren't going to feel as heavy and tired. It sounds ridiculous, but small things like that really do add up when you're trying to become the best player that you possibly can be ahead of Call of Duty Warzone Season 5. So make sure, if you can, to get as many frames per second as possible. Use a headset and adjust your audio settings. Try and use a 24 to 27 inch monitor with as high refresh rate as possible, and then make sure your controller is optimized ahead of Season 5 so you can rack up as many wins as possible. I'd also like to say once again a big thank you to Palette and Nvidia for sponsoring this video. Remember to check out that link down below, as well as a big thank you to every single one of you tuning in, as I wouldn't be able to do this without you. Make sure to check out another Warzone video and let me know what you think down in the comments, and I'll see you there. Bye.